And welcome to Inside Albania with me, Alice Taylor. This week I'm joined in the studio by Blendi Fevziu, who is perhaps one of Albania's most well-known and longest-standing journalists. We're going to be talking about his career in journalism, his thoughts on Albania, and the books that he has written. I also spoke to Shkodra Elektronike, who are Albania's entry for the Eurovision Song Contest. We speak about their entry, whether they're feeling nervous ahead of the festival, and what it's like to blend traditional Albanian music with contemporary world music. Blendi Fevziu, welcome to Inside Albania. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
I have so many questions I want to ask you, but I must say I'm a bit nervous to be sat across from a journalist such as yourself. It's more nerve-wracking, journalist on journalist.
You have to be very relaxed because this is a conversation between two colleagues.
That's true. Okay, let's start at the beginning. You're one of the longest-standing journalists in Albania from the moment of democracy onwards, but you studied at university, language, literature. But why journalism? Was it something you always wanted to do, or was it a matter of being in the right place at the right time at that moment?
There are both of those in a way, because at that time journalism, it was not allowed. In the University of Tirana, there was not a journalism study, let's say. It was only literature. The most of the people who wanted to work in the newspapers, they were two newspapers at that time, very controlled by the regime, or at the state TV, they have to study in the literature and the language, Albanian language in University of Tirana. When I was there, my dream, it was to become a writer. I wanted to publish romance, novels, and the others. But at that time, it was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, the students' newspaper. It was a kind of voluntary newspaper created by the journalists, but strongly controlled by the committee, the party committee at that time. He asked me if I can do something like an editor or redactor of the literature part of the newspaper. And I started to work voluntarily with some of my friends at the time of the newspaper. Mostly we wrote about the romance writers abroad. At that time, I asked the editor-in-chief if I can do some interviews with the most important Albanian writers. And he said yes, but at the time, the students' newspaper, it was a little bit more, let's say, liberal than the main media. And we started some interview with the most famous writers at that time. We sent them the questions and they answered by right hand. I have all the copies of those interviews with some of the most important.
Like who?
At that time, yeah, absolutely. Some of the most important writers in the history, in the Albanian society. And those interviews, because they were some questions more different from the other question, from the standard questions, they were very popular at that time in Albania. Then it was the movement of the students of December, and Prej Zogaj, who was in charge of the founding newspaper of the first newspaper of the position, he asked me, we don't have journalists because most of all journalists are compromised with the communist regime. We don't have young people. Can you join a group of the journalists, writers, intellectuals who want to found the newspaper of the opposition? I accepted, and we were 3 journalists in the beginning of this newspaper. Me, Ben Blushi, and Armand Shkullaku. I invited 2 others. And we started with the newspapers. That means the journalism, it was just, in my idea, something temporary, you know, just a transition time from the beginning of the newspapers till some months or maybe 1 year. But now I'm still here for 35 years.
And the medium's changed a bit. I mean, you're talking about, you know, writing questions and having them handwrite versions back. And now we're talking about going out with a mobile phone and a gimbal and some wireless microphones. How has that transition been? Like, even for me to keep up with the way that
totally
news
different.
is.
It's totally different. Yeah. Absolutely, totally different. Because even when we started the newspaper at that time, we had the newspaper with this very old technology named zingography. With prepared, it was, I remember very well in the place where we were stamping the newspaper. It was an old machine of 1905 from Switzerland, and we worked with this machine. It was a machine from pre-Second World War, confiscated by the communists, and still working there. And the first newspaper of the opposition in Albania has been done by this old machine. At the time, it was less or more 85 years old, because it was 1991, January 1991. It was totally, even for that time, we were very, very old compared to the technology the other countries had. Then it was changed, the newspaper, it was changed, the television, now we have the social media, you have journalists everywhere, everybody, if he has a mobile phone on his hand, he can be a journalist. Now it's something mixed, and it is changed, but mostly it has changed the mentality. When I started the journalism, we don't have any example, for example. I don't have someone to follow as a journalist. But from the beginning, we knew that we have to let's say, to refer two parts, to have two sources of the news, to have a balance inside of the article we published. For example, if we had some references to the Democratic Party, we had also some references from the Socialist Party, and it was then the reader who can make the difference between them. Now I think, especially with the social media and the media online, the most of the people, they don't care about the different opinions. They want to express their opinion, and the people who follow them are mostly the people who wants to hear only this version of the things. They don't accept it, another version or the different version of the things. This has created more let's say, polarization on the society in general. The people don't have too much information. You can remember the January 6th in the United States, where some of the people, they didn't have any other information except the information from one side. It's the same story in Albania. In Albania, this has created a new area of the radicalism. Let's say, if you talk to the people in the beginning, when I started my show, they said, you know, this guy said this one, the other guy said this one. Now the people said me, why you invited this guy? I don't want to hear this guy. I want to hear only this other guy, which is a new culture coming from the social media in general.
Do you think, I was teaching at the University of Tirana, a journalism class, and I was teaching them about article writing, and a young guy put up his hand and said, but why do I need to learn how to write an article? I just want to make reels for social media. No one reads anymore. No one reads the news anymore.
This is a big problem.
But do you think even TV shows are going to become obsolete in the coming years, where people, they just want quick, short sort of bursts of information?
Sure, because in general, even the TV is becoming as a kind of social media. You know, is this, let's say, this process of the Instagramization, of TikTokization of TV. In general, 28 years ago, when I started my show, the presence in the studio, it was very, very serious. You know, the people invited in the studio, they had an invitation 2-3 days before. They were very well prepared. They were the very hard discussions and debates, but in general, with substance inside of the debate. Now you see the people who come on the show just 5 minutes before, you just call them and they say, oh yeah, I'm coming, even without having an idea what will be the discussion, the subject of the show.
We'll come back to journalism as well, but I want to talk about your book, A Meeting With, where you have written about a lot of the interviews you've done over the years with people from Albanian history and prominent figures from Albania, and some international as well. And I heard you speaking about it the other day. It was fascinating, and I had some questions about it as a journalist. One of my questions was, out of all the people you've interviewed throughout your career, is there anyone you wish you hadn't given a platform to?
What?
Is there anyone you wish you hadn't interviewed or given a platform to? You've thought afterwards?
No, has been one, but I never interviewed her. Has been the wife of Enver Hoxha. We discussed in the 98, I remember very well, for an interview. She was ready at the time. And then she called me saying, I have some, because I sent it her the questions, let's say the topics, the general topics. And she said, I couldn't talk about 1, 2, 3, 4. And I said, no, I couldn't have this interview without those questions, because there are the fundamental questions about the history of the communism in Albania. Then I had a meeting with her, very short meeting, and For me, it's sure that she can add her version of the things or the story, but she can never said, I couldn't answer to 1, 2, 3, or 4 questions, or you couldn't do it, because she can said, I don't want to answer, no comment, but not to say you couldn't ask about those things. And I didn't accept
There's
it.
no point then.
The other, I don't think. In the book, in general, there are not only the people I interviewed, there are the people I met more than one. I met more than one times, more than once. With some of them, I had a long story, friendship from even before the fall of the communism. And I said there are 3 type of the people. There are the people which I met it when they finished their career, their whole life, like Ramizalia, Queen Geraldine, the former leader, communist leader, last communist leader of Albania, Queen Geraldine, the wife of King Zog, Liri Belishova, which was the woman with the highest position in the Communist Party of Albania in the 50s, or the fiancé of Kemal Stafa, one of the Albanian heroes. They were in the end of their career. Rabaz Ermeni, the chairman of the Bali Komtar at the time, Yusuf Brioni, a very interesting man from Albania, translator. Some, they were just in the beginning, like Rama, Berisha, Ilir Meta, which was a friend of mine in the school. Some of them, they were between, or a leader of Fadil Hoxha, the leader of the Communist Party of Kosovo for 40 years. He was the most important political man in Kosovo after the Second World War. That's mean there were different types. There was the second, and in the between of them, there were the people from the culture, which I met, like Ismail Kadare, when they were famous, but they had a career even after our first meeting, or Dritero Agoli, Max Velo, and some others. But the most of them, they were very, very interesting people. I had the idea, now we don't have more people
I was
interesting
just about to ask
like
you,
that.
because I thought the same as well. You know, when I heard your talk and I saw some of the people you'd interviewed, and I'm thinking, who is going to be the equivalent of these people in 50 years?
But this is not only the problem of Albania. This is the problem of all Europe and even United States, because the most of them, they were people who took the decision in a very difficult moment, in a very dangerous moment for their life or for the country as well. And I think this responsibility grow them and create a real character on those people. Now you can see the people we are not prepared for, maybe because we don't know what will happen in the future, for strong moments. They were the strong people of the strong moments. They were the people who passed through the wars, through the very dangerous moment of the country or the history or themselves. Now you can find the people who come out from the house in the morning, made some speeches, take some decisions, but they are not decisive for the country.
They don't have that passion,
they were
the fire.
totally different, totally different people.
Is there anyone that you wanted to interview or meet and you didn't get the chance? Perhaps they passed away. I was due to meet Ismail Kadare the week before he died.
He was one of the most interesting people you ever met.
And I missed by
Has
days.
been one miscalculating story. I had an interview for newspaper with Ibrahim Rugova, but I never had an interview with him for the television because of the circumstances. Because after '94, he never came in Albania again to be very present. My first interview with him is '93. We had a kind of friendship at that time. We had some lunches together, coffee. But after that, he didn't came in Albania. After '99, I had a position supporting KLA, and he was in a kind of fight with KLA at the moment, and he didn't accept it more interviews. Let's say I didn't have an interview of Ibrahim Rugova on TV. I had only this interview for the newspaper Alianza. But I met him 4 or 5 times before Kosovo War, and 2 or 3 times after the Kosovo War. But after Kosovo War, it was something, just official one, not real meetings like before.
Is there anyone living who you haven't managed to meet or interview yet that you really want to?
No.
No?
No.
What's your secret? Because I have one and he's very elusive in Albania and I can't get him to...
My secret in what way?
How to get everyone to agree to coming
Because
to speak
at
to
the
you.
beginning, I have been a lucky journalist, let's say, because I started as a journalist when I was 21 years old. And 22 years old, I was the editor-in-chief of the second biggest newspaper
Yes.
in Albania. And 23 years old, I was the editor-in-chief of the biggest newspaper in Albania. Out of the mind, if you can discuss for today. And at the time, there were only those newspapers. When I started on TV, I was the only show in the only TV on Albania. Everyone wanted to express their ideas, or some of the people were at a very age and they wanted only to leave something behind of them, let's say.
Yes, yeah.
They wanted to leave their version of the history, their version of the story in general. The most of them, they were the people who were asking me to interview them more than I asked them. Yes, they sent it some people, some friends asking me why you don't interview this one or this other one. For some of them, for example, I had the idea they were not still alive when I founded some of them. This is the real story of for example, when I traveled to South Africa to meet with the King Leka at the time, when we were talking on the phone to prepare the interview and the trip with the chief of the cabinet, he said, Queen Geraldine is with Leka in Johannesburg. Why you don't ask for an interview with her? I said, for sure.
Yes.
For me, it's more important Queen than King Leka. And he said, yes, sure. She is at the moment
ready.
she can talk. It's still
Yes, yes.
she can talk. And let's say there is not always my let's say my part. It's the part of some others.
I have about a 90% success rate, which I think is pretty good going. What's the most challenging interview you've done? You know, I see your show, you know, moments go viral, people arguing, you disagree, but what's the most challenging guest or person or moment on your show where you've thought, oh, maybe this is going too far or it's going in the wrong direction? Have you had any moments like that? But what's the number one? I'm curious.
But there are two different ways. First of all, the most important show I ever had, for example, has been the debate between Nano and Berisha in 31 January 2002. Nano and Berisha, they were the leader of the both parties, Socialist Party and Democratic Party, but from 11 years they never met each other. Nano were sent in prison by Berisha from 94 to 93, 97. Then he was returned. He was the Prime Minister of Albania. He left as a Prime Minister after an attack on the government building by the supporter of Berisha at that time. And in 2002, they were, from 11 years, the most important politician of Albania, but without meeting each other even a moment.
Wow.
They never shake their hands in the front. And it was, let's say, a tentative made by Klaus Kinkel, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany, from Romano Prodi, the chief of the European Commission. Everyone wanted to invite both of them in a table, even for an informal lunch. They never accepted to stay in the front of each other. And when I arranged it to have both of them in a show, it was a crazy moment. I remember very well, Berisha accepted on the Saturday night. The show were on Thursday. And in five days, I was all the moments waiting for the phone call of one or other to say, I will cancel my presence. But at the end, the show was realized, and it was crazy. Never can happen again, because it was in Clan TV, in 81 small television in whole Albania, in main television of Kosovo, RTK, in the second state television of Macedonia, and the second state television of Montenegro, which was television for Albanians. And it was for the first time in a kind of live stream at that time. It was very antique live stream for the first time. And it was something like 3 hours. And we had also an incident because during the show we had a block on the electricity. It was a crash on the electricity, and it happened sometimes. And it was very, very interesting show. And at the end, they were a little bit nervous. They don't want it also to shake their hands.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted to move.
But the camera's
from
watching
different.
them.
But the cameras were watching, and I invited them at least 2 minutes to shake their hands.
Yeah,
and now this shake hand has been the only one for a long time. Then the shows have been, let's say, out of my control has been a show in 2013 with Artan Lame, a debate between Minister of Infrastructure of Democratic Party and his counterpart, let's say, in charge of the Socialist Party with infrastructure. Has been very, very difficult show because they were, both of them, very problematic guys. Sokol Oldashi and Artan Lame. And I started to ask many times to stop, but it was impossible. And at the end, you can see it is viral in YouTube when I said them push up, asking him to, or saying stop. It is very viral. You can find it in YouTube. It is also a song with this voice. Yeah.
You went viral. Now, I wanted to ask as well, you are, as I said earlier, one of the most well-known people in the country. What do you think is a misconception people might have about you, the work you do, and how would you correct it? Is there something you think?
No, in general, in Albania, now, because in the beginning, it was much more concentrated. Now the people can think the different. In general, I don't care about the comments. I don't care about the people.
read them?
I care too much about some of my friends.
Yes.
We are the people who started the journalism with me, and whom I discuss still about the shows. If some of them can tell me the show was not good or something goes wrong or something, I care about the story and start to discuss or to understand what was the problem. It was my problem, it was the problem of the guest, it was the problem from, let's say, in general. But about the other people, for me, I don't have too much interest on them.
And looking back on your career as well, obviously you still have a long way to go, but is there anything you would have changed or done differently?
Mostly nothing. I can say I will do always the same way, with my mistakes, with my problems, maybe with my inexperience, because at the beginning it was inexperience. And I want to live now, because now I'm in the end of a circle, because 36 years in journalism, it is not very easy. Maybe I can have more 10 years, or I don't know, even less or even more. But in general, I produce the most of my, let's say, product. At the moment, I'm looking to do something about the history of Albania. In the beginning, in 91, 92, we didn't have any idea about the real history of Albania, because we had only the communist version, which was corrected and not real, fake in some things. And I learned a lot from the old people, not from the historians, from the people who passed on those moments of the history. And now I want to leave to the people as much as I can about my experience, especially in the history of Albania.
I think there's a big gap around communism where people don't know as much as they should, don't want to know as well. Do you think, and sometimes I think, you know, we have to talk more about all the things that happened there, we have to make people aware, but then there seems to be another train of thought from people, look, it's the past, let's just move on. Where do you stand
Because
in
the
this?
communism has been a very bad thing in the Albanian history. And being a bad thing also has been a problem for everybody. Has been a problem inside of the family. You can find the people in the same family who someone collaborated with Sigurimi, who gave the information about his family member, his friends. And in the beginning, this was a very big problem. Now, with the distance of the time, we are something like 35 years from the fall of the communism. The people are more concerned about the communism, but now it's too far.
Yeah.
I think we are the only country in the East Europe who doesn't have nothing about the communism. We don't have books, real books I'm talking, not memories, because the memories are memories. Memories not always are the real version of the history. We don't have books. We don't have books about our dictator, about communism, or we have, but we have yes, not enough as normally we could had about the communism. And in the other side, we haven't talked as much as we need about our past, because if we don't analyze our past, it's very difficult to understand why we made the mistakes today. In some point of view, when I follow the electoral campaign, because when the communism was, when the regime was changed in Albania, it was something like 20, 21 years old, and I remember very well the communism. Some chance of the, or some moments of the electoral campaign of today, they're identical with the, let's say,
Tactics.
not the tactics, but with this, let's say the mise-en-scènes of the communism. You know, the people, the way they approach to the leader, how they talk to the leader. It's stupid. It's something from the past more than something of today.
I see the mass emigration of people as well as sort of a side effect of this trauma that is passed down from generation to generation. It creates a disconnect between people and their country. They feel the bitterness and frustration from their parents who have all this unresolved trauma and things. And I think this drives people to leave as well. But I worry, you know, there's lots of projects I want to do about communism memory and things like missing people, for example. But I worry that people they want to move on from it. And I don't think there's political will either.
Yeah, I think you're right on that way. We have something like 6,000 people without, still missing, and without, let's say, a place where their people can send some flowers, or can go for the religious moments to put something like a candle or something like that. But in the other way, I don't think the immigration comes only because of the past. No. I know very well, because during the visits abroad, I met the people, young people, who said me, the parents said, you don't go back in Albania, even for the visits. This country has a very bad past. This country never will change, and they want to know why. Why this country? What is the problem with this country? It's very difficult to explain on them how the communism was in Albania, why the communism in Albania was much more radical than the other East European countries, why the Albania was not invited by the Soviet Union. It was much more fanatic on the communism than the country who were under the occupation of the Soviet army. Why the Albania, when the Soviet Union, it was changing, let's say, the line, going a little bit more liberal with Khrushchev, Albania chose to go to Mao Zedong and to continue with the hard line of the communism. Why the Stalin was a myth and a hero in Albania till the December of 1990. We need now a real, let's say, real studies and a real the profundation on those subjects which still are without an answer.
Unresolved. My last question, are you working on any new book at the moment, or other projects?
I'm working in 2 or 3 projects. Usually I have some projects on the books. I want to publish, but maybe a little bit later, a book about all those years in Albania from 90, from the fall of the regime till now. Will be a book easy to read for someone who want to know something, to have an idea about those 35 or 40 years. I don't know when I will publish this one in Albania. For this year, if I could, I will publish a book about my travel abroad. I have visited 154 countries, and it's very interesting because I was born in the most isolated country in the world. At that time, when I was a child, even to move from a city to another city, you need a permission from the government or from the party at the time. And now, traveling abroad, I can find some countries which are similar to Albania. I can have the experience I had it before. with some countries like Cuba or Vietnam, or some very isolated countries like Eritrea or Turkmenistan, and in Eritrea, for example, I was identical in the same story of Albania of 80s, absolutely, but less violent, but the same story, the same isolation. And I want to publish a book starting from my first travel to Rome, which I had a very nice story with Mother Teresa, till my last travels abroad. I don't know who will be the last one, but one of the latest, it was Syria, the visit in Damascus after the fall of the Assad regime, which was a very, very interesting story, because always I had some the ideas about the Syria, the culture, the past, and also about the Arnauts, the Albanians of Syria. And I found a real Albanian community there, who after 100 and 120 years, they still speaks, some of them fluently Albanians. Even the young people, the children, they started to talk with me on Albanian. Okay, they don't know as their, let's say, grandfathers, but in general, they had a very fluent Albanian, if you understand that for more than 5 generations, they are born and raised in Syria.
A friend of mine, he's a photographer, he just got back from Afghanistan. He's Maltese. He was the first Maltese person to enter Afghanistan under the Taliban rule. And he had a great time.
I have been twice in Afghanistan.
Since the Taliban?
No.
He said it was fine.
I've been one of the first journalists to visit Afghanistan.
Amazing.
Just 2 months after the American troops and North Alliance occupied, let's say entry, not occupied, in Kabul. And has been one of my worst memories in life, because there were no hotel, no bar, no restaurants. We were staying in a container in the garden of the Turkish ambassador. At the time, there were only 3 diplomatic missions in Kabul. The Americans, we were staying in a military compound, the Turkish and the British. There were only 3 diplomats, and I think Pakistan also. And we were always accompanied by the very heavily armed guard, meeting President Karzai and the others. But one day I were discussing with the diplomat, and Turkish diplomat, and he said me, if you go outside, the people are very friendly now. And we managed to escape a little bit from the army with a friend of mine, Andy Bushati, which is a journalist now, and we walked whole day on the streets of Kabul, and it was amazing. And we heard some very bad and very, very, let's say, difficult stories about their past under the Taliban from 96 to 2000, 2002. We were in the beginning of 2002. And then we were found by the army, and they were very angry with us.
Armed escort the rest of the way. Yeah, the Taliban actually welcomed him and were very friendly. This was last week, and they were very friendly. But then when he tried
at the moment, yes.
Yeah, because they want to show people, oh, you can come here. We have shops and electric and everything.
They are not the Talibans of 96. This is for sure.
They're a bit more moderate,
but they are still
perhaps.
The same.
But then when he got to the border with Pakistan, they were like, you were there alone? Are you crazy? And he had armed escort with sirens 24 hours back through the rest of the country. So, Blendi, that's our time. We could talk for hours, I'm sure, but thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Thank you very much, Alice. I hope I've been helpful for you.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. Shkodra Elektronike, welcome to Inside Albania, and thank you for both joining me today.
Thank you for inviting us.
It's a pleasure. I wish you were here in the studio in person, but we'll do our best with Skype.
We are electronic, so we can...
True. The clue is in the name. So let's start at the beginning. I want you to tell me your story. You know, you're both from Shkodra, the cradle of culture of Albania. And you grew up in Italy, and I'd like to hear from each of you your story, you know, from Shkodra to Italy and to where we are today. Beatrice, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. I emigrated with my parents when I was 6. in 1997, and from Albania to Italy. And since then, I always lived in Italy. So I did all, the school classes and everything. And I mean, my passion for Shkodra was like a nostalgic. It's nowadays too a nostalgic passion. I love the music of my city. I love the culture, and of course, all this stuff reminds me of my childhood and of my lovely grandparents. So when I started to sing when I was I don't know 13, I always tried I don't know different kind of types of music, Western music, but every time I felt like I don't know incomplete because something I don't know. I was looking for something else, and when I found a video on YouTube in 2014, maybe I don't remember exactly the year, I found on YouTube a Turtulation version made by Cole with another music project. And when I found this cover on YouTube, I was like very surprised because for me it was the first time um, seeing something like me. I mean, he is bigger than me, of course. He had different experiences, but for me as a Shkodra girl, was pretty incredible to find an underground musician in Italy that were born like me in the same city. So I just sent him a message to I just wrote a thank you to Cole for what he was doing with music, with this cover, with this amazing cover they made. And then Cole can continue.
Yes, Cole, tell me your story as well, and then continue on from Beatrix's story.
I I was born in Albania and in Shkodra, and I have studied classical music, pianoforte, at Prenkiakova school during the communism. And then I came in Italy when I was 20 to study political sciences. I had nothing to do with the music for 6, 8 years. I don't know. I don't remember exactly now. But I stopped because I hated the classical music and the way of teaching, this music, this Sovietic way of teaching the music. And then I restarted from the beginning. I mean, I restarted just with a free mind, like I was not a musician from the beginning. I made my first band called Istrodeo in the end of 90s. And then I continued playing with different bands in Italy and France. In meantime, I finished political sciences just to have a laurea.
Just to have the degree.
Just to have a degree. And then I knew from internet this pretty girl from Shkodra. And I watched her videos of her bands, and I like the way she sings.
How you connect your art to your roots? Like you've spent almost most of your life, I think, in Italy, but you are still very connected to your roots. But how do you balance this love of music, but also this connection to your roots with what appeals outside of Albania and internationally?
I was born. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, continue.
Okay.
Continue.
I was born in a singer family, All my relatives are domestic singers and professionals too. So I always listen to this music, this Skodra music. For me, this type of music is like are like childhood memories. When I think of this, when I hear this music, for me it's like to rethink to the Christmas party, when I the childhood Christmas party. So for me are like home. you know. And I always love this type of melodies. I never reject this. I mean, when I was an adolescent, of course, I loved punk, I loved other underground genres, but always I felt myself very complete when I wrote songs with this little, salt, with this little Shkodra melodies.
Cole, so to follow on from that, how do you balance this tradition and this musical inspiration from your roots with what appeals sort of internationally?
But I always, my first band were with guys from Croatia, from Balkans as well. And the music we made with them, we called it Balkan psychedelia, Balkan psychedelic. And this was my first band. So from the beginning, I started mixing Balkan tradition of Balkan with Western music. But this reason was because I think the whole Western music is based on the popular music. I mean, we listen to the American music, and the American music is based on blues. Blues is popular music. So the whole music always is based, it starts from the popular music. So I thought, why not to start from my popular music? I will make, Western music, but starting from the roots of my tradition, like everyone else in the world.
It's a good answer. So moving on to your Eurovision entry, Zjur, consider the audience here is international and they might not know, the Albanian language. What is it about? And then can you explain any of the cultural sort of inspirations that go into it, aside from the language, obviously, and what messages it's conveying? Beatrice?
The song is has two parts, my parts and the Cole part. And I'm just talking about the lyrics. And my part, it's pretty simple. I just speak about a minute. I imagine a minute where everything is fine in the world, And in the refrain, I say, "Oh, let's keep this minute inside of me. Let's continue with this minute to making the same choice, to choose the kindness, not the hate or something like this." But when I wrote this part, when I sent to call the demo, he had his part that for me balanced my dreamy part, In the song, in the performance too, I'm like the dreamy part, the dynamic part, the more, I don't know, more naive maybe, And his balance is pretty the opposite. All the song is fulfilled with opposites, It's like the same coin with two faces.
Obviously, each year, I've been in Albania for 8 years now, and there's always this debate about whether you keep it in the Albanian language or whether it should be translated into English. Keeping it in Albanian language is important to you? Was the discussion around what to do ever, or was it always just going to be that way?
No, we are pretty free when we write lyrics, when I write the lyrics, of course I start with the Albanian because the name of the project is Shkodra Elektronike, but we are pretty free. We have English songs too.
Yes.
And we will release after Eurovision an EP with 5 songs, and one of them has an English part. So we wrote this song a year ago. So, and I don't know, I like the Albanian sound of language, I love and for me, it's a big research because of Shkodra Elektronike, I'm learning my language, my native language, and I'm learning, of course, the story of my country. I'm just doing a university with Shkodra Elektronike about Albania. Yeah.
Cole, how are you feeling ahead of the contest? Are you nervous? Are you quietly confident? What are your feelings and expectations ahead of it? Do you feel the pressure?
No, no, I don't feel the pressure. We, together with all the people that are helping us, the Radio Televisioni Shqiptar that are helping us, Ministria Kulturs, the Albanian Radio Television and the Ministry of Culture that are helping us, we are all together. We are trying to do the best we can do to represent Albania in the best way we can do with all our thoughts, with everything we can do. If we reach this goal, for us is okay. This is a kind of pressure, okay, but from the moment that we are pretty sure that we have done everything we can, we are okay.
Beatrice, how are you feeling before?
I don't know. I'm happy. I'm honored, and of course, I feel a little pressure because when you have to sing so many parts on a big stage, you have to work with your body and your voice, and you don't know how it will go.
You can't mess up.
Okay. Yeah, of course. But I'm fine. I mean, I'm so happy. Of course, for me, that I'm so short, it's a big thing. But I hope we will honor the people that voted for us, and we will bring to this stage a little piece of our beautiful country.
And I wanted to ask, actually, what has the reaction been like from people? I find often here Eurovision can be quite divisive. People either, oh, I like this, or I don't like this, or they should do it like this, or they shouldn't wear this. How have people responded sort of from in Albania, but also maybe in the Albanian community in Italy as well?
I think everything is going very good, Nobody is judging us so bad. I don't know. Of course, we don't have so many times to read all the comments, but all the messages we received, we try to read all of them, and people are from all over the world saying to us, your song, it's beautiful. And for us, it's a big thing, It's so touching.
Cole, a question for you. People who've maybe not heard of Albania or don't know anything about Albania, let alone its music and this idea of Albanian pop, what do you want them to take away from this song? If this is their only contact, what would you want them to take away the most and to learn from it?
This is really hard.
Sorry.
Because I like the question before that I answered, I don't know. It's true that I don't know, because we just made this song the way we think, the way we like, the way we think that it's a good song, and what the people take away with them from this song, I don't know actually, but there is one thing that I hope that the new generations, especially in Albania, but not only in Albania, can take with them from us, not only from a song from us, is that if you like music, if you want to do music, just make the music you want the way you want. Just find your way of making this without looking to be someone else, without trying to achieve to achieve anything, just for yourself. And if you are okay with it, that will be a good music.
What would the name of the EP be?
Shnerit.
Say it again, sorry?
Shnerit.
What does that mean? Sorry, I failed with my...
Shine.
Shine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We say this word at the Zierm song.
Uh-huh.
It's like the hook of the song. I say snit, 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 and means shine.
Shine. Okay, so we will
Shine.
be. When will it be released? Straight after Eurovision? Or you have a release date for it?
Yes,
Yeah.
after we don't know exactly the day
Okay.
after or 2 days after,
Okay.
but the days after Eurovision.
Now, I want to ask a special favor. Can you sing a few lines from the song a cappella for us? Is it possible?
Okay. Of the Zjarm, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Në zemrën time, në zemrën teme, këminu do të vazhdoj. Njerëz të mirë, njerëz po e merë, kërcin vëdhen shpirt. Jana ne di do kajme, ku kam linë sot e haroj. Jana ne di botajme, vazhdo me shnit, 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 shnit.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Carl, it's your turn. The floor is yours.
Now my no, I want to destroy your Zjerm, bjen mi valët tona tribale që u ftojnë sa orteku kur bjen male. Zjerm, njerëz po emën e njerëz të dlirt, njësoj këputën e binë si 7 thika që të ngulin shpirt. Zjerm, këtu flendeti, rana e hana e yjet si shofim se yjet në i shkel kama kuret si mjerm. Zjerm, jenat und për flak e drit, e të kërkojmë këtë tërë që s'pran të shnërit.
Thank you very much. I feel honoured for that very special performance. Good luck. Good luck with Eurovision. We will be cheering you on, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Përfaqësimi.
Bye. Thank you.
That's all for this week. You can follow Inside Albania every Saturday at 4 o'clock on Euronews Albania, on our YouTube channel, on demand, Euronews Albania, and across all major podcasting platforms. Until next week, Përfaqësimi.